Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a quick update for anyone curious about that 16-inch rectangular picture tube I picked up recently. The 16 RP4, where I measured 0 emissions when I tried testing it before. So I noticed the base was loose, so I was wondering if I had some bad contacts, so I ended up heating up the solder joints and just pulling the base off. And it turns out that the G1 connection was pretty intermittent, so I ended up cleaning the lead off, and I got clips directly on the pins. I taped my testing cable here to reduce the strain on those pins, and yeah, I was able to finally get some emissions. Not fantastic by any means. I've also got this running on some elevated filament juice. Yeah, about 7 volts right now. And I've got the cutoff down to all the way to minus 20. It should be minus 36 on this, but if I get down to minus 20, I do get control. Minus 36, not much of anything. And as far as emissions go, pretty stinky. But at least there are some emissions. There weren't any previously. I've only had this running about 5 minutes, so the usual routine. Let it sit for a while, maybe an hour. No improvement. Try rejuvenation. At this point, I really have nothing to lose with this. I knew it was a gamble when I bought it. I cranked the filament up to about 7.5 volts and let it sit for around an hour. Now the emissions are plenty into the green, but the question is, if I drop this down to 6.3, what kind of emissions will we have? Looks like it's gonna barely hang into the green. Maybe. So for sure, if I used a brightener with this, it would have a viewable picture, but without one, not so great. I have the life test rather. Drop, and if I let go, let's see if it actually makes it back into the green. Maybe eventually. I'm going to cycle the power completely off and back on this a few times and see where that emission gets up to. At only 6.3 volts. I suspect it's going to be somewhere down in between 6 and 7. In which case, I think I will try a rejuvenation or auto restore or manual restore. Let's see. If they're both pretty bad, they suggest auto cycle. Alright, so that's what I'll try first. See, auto restore position. What you do with that is you rotate the switch around auto restore, then you hold down this button until the needle deflects 3 times, and you let go and retest. While you're holding that button down, the filament gets really bright, and it kind of pulses, I think, some voltage on one of the elements, and you watch the restoring current, and you see how far up it can go. Ideally, in each of the 3 passes, it goes up a little bit higher, and after you're done and the filament cools down and all that, you're somewhere over in the green. Practically speaking, I've never had much luck ever restoring a CRT because I only use it as a last resort when they're fairly worn out anyways, and it can only do so much, but we'll see what happens. I realized what I said a moment ago wasn't quite right. If both cutoff and emission are bad, you should do a one-shot rejuve and then auto cycle. So let's give this a shot. Oh, by the way, here it is after cycling a few times. It's into the bad, just barely. And then as far as cutoff goes, nothing. Which makes me think, though, that the cutoff is definitely way into the bad, and the emissions are kind of on the edge of being good, so I think I will just do the auto cycle first, because it's not as aggressive as doing one-shot rejuvenation. The one-shot rejuves where they like charge up a capacitor and kind of blast the thing. And there's always a potential you could just go down to 0 emissions. So auto restore, so that filament's going to start getting brighter and brighter. And then we just hold this button down. And there's one pass. 2 passes. And 3. So the emissions definitely way into the good, but we'll see how long they stay there. Typically it'll drop off a bit. So the filament's cooling down now. So we're above 11 right now, just barely. Let's just call it 11. And about the cutoff control. No, still have barely any cutoff unless I drop it down a range. But I'm not as concerned about the cutoff as I am emission. Still holding it about 11. Try a little life test. It's a pretty solid life test. Yeah, let this sit for a few minutes and then we'll come back and see if it actually stays at 11. It's been a little over an hour and the emissions have dropped off a little. And the life test. Not terrible. So I imagine this will produce a watchable picture, but for how long? Well, who can say? So what I'll do now is reattach the base with some RTV, silicone adhesive, and try using this in a set eventually.